Risk of a recession.
No, the market
But in the long term,
need additional investment.
To engage in dialogue.
where am I?
Every quarter.
The housing market comes
Too
back.
strong an opinion.
All right, we've figured out all our technical snafus. Let's get to our guest, Mike Jackson. He is giving a keynote address today at the Automotive News World Congress in Detroit on the state of the economy and the auto industry. Mike, great to have you back with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's
Good
talk.
to be here.
Great to have you here. Let's talk about that keynote. What are the main points here that you're hoping to make?
Well, there's no question that industry sales are at depression levels of 10 million units. It took extraordinary circumstances to get to this condition, and it's going to take extraordinary measures to get sales moving again. First and foremost, we need the restoration of credit. You cannot run the automobile industry without credit, with an average ticket price of $30,000 for consumers. It would be like trying to run an airline without jet fuel. You just can't get it off the ground. And the financial service sector remains in turmoil, and hopefully the Federal Reserve finds a way around that and begins to accept securitization of automobile paper. Next, the big stimulus package must include reasons to come back into the marketplace for consumers. And finally, we need a coherent energy policy, because with gasoline back down to $2 a gallon, the industry has millions of fuel-efficient vehicles that are sitting there unsold as consumers migrate back to trucks.
Hey, Mike, sit tight for a second. I got to take a break, but I got a lot of questions coming your way. Back with Mike Jackson in 2. All right, everybody, I want to get back to our guest, CEO Mike Jackson, CEO of AutoNation. Hey, Mike, you know, Daron just talking about really that changing lineup, if you will, in the auto industry. What do you make of that?
Well, I think the collapse of automobile sales in the U.S. completely trumps any joy or pleasure Toyota may have taken in becoming the world's largest automobile manufacturer. They're facing a loss that they never counted on. They've suspended the installation and development of new factories here in the U.S. They have yen problems to deal with. They have massive inventory situation that they have to shut down factories in Japan for 12 days, unprecedented. So the automobile industry is in turmoil, and any joy or pleasure out of a top ranking is gone.
And you talk about, you know, you mentioned this address you're giving, the keynote at the Automotive News World Congress in Detroit. You talk about extraordinary measures needed, and you talk about, you know, referencing the stimulus plan. Specifically, Mike, what would you like the Obama administration to do to really help out the auto industry, further help the auto industry? Well,
the industry is going to need further bridge loans to get through this turmoil in this valley, and to get consumers back into the marketplace. The stimulus package needs to include some incentives for them. Years ago, Congress took away the deductibility of the interest on auto loans. I think this was a mistake. It pushed people towards home equity loans to get the interest deductions. I think that deduction needs to be restored. I'd like to see accelerated depreciation schedules for small business to buy light trucks for their companies, deductibility of sales tax, and overall, though, just a positive, confident step that this economy is going to get moving again, to give consumers the feel that their job is not in serious jeopardy, and give them the confidence to buy a new vehicle.
Mike, you for over a year have been also a proponent of higher fuel taxes to really force buyers to consider more fuel-efficient cars. Is that an issue, too, that you'd really like to see move forward, or at least be debated by the new Congress and new president? I'm assuming so.
I've been talking about that for years, because I was trying to head off the panic that would occur if gas prices ever spiked. Well, that happened in the summer of '08, and that was something quite to deal with. Now, at the moment, considering the economic crisis, that comes before everything else, and cheap gasoline is helping during this economic crisis. But looking out 2011, 2012, we need higher gasoline prices to keep consumer behavior focused on purchasing and valuing fuel efficiency. If we do not, they'll migrate back. So your choice is to let a cartel try to bankrupt America, or you can tax gasoline here in the U.S., get the behavior you want, and keep the money in the good old U.S. of A.
You know, you mentioned, too, in that keynote that you're talking about a coherent energy policy. You know, it's kind of staggering to me that 30 years ago we went through that energy crisis. Everybody talked about more fuel efficiency and so on and so forth. Nothing ever happened. Do you feel like it might be different this time around?
I hope so, because this is the third time around. We did it in the 70s. We did it in the 80s. And the federal government is absolutely schizophrenic. It's telling us as an industry to develop and build fuel-efficient vehicles, But everybody knows the price of gasoline determines the type of vehicles people buy and how they use them. And the government continues to support and favor a cheap gasoline policy. Well, you can't have it both ways. We're either going to have more expensive gasoline and people value fuel efficiency or not. So that's where we need a coherent energy policy that's pulling in two different directions.
All right, Mike, sit tight. We're going to take a break, come back and talk some more. Everybody, we are talking with the CEO of AutoNation, Mike Jackson. He is giving a keynote speech in Detroit at the Automotive News World Congress today. But we have some more questions we're going to put to him about the auto industry. Taking a break, everyone. Back in 2 minutes' time. All right, want to get back to our special guest, Mike Jackson. He's the CEO of AutoNation. Hey, Mike, I just got a question sent to me from Greg Miles. As you know, he covers the auto industry. He talks about Jerry York saying it will take about $100 billion a year in U.S. aid to auto finance companies like GMAC to restore industry sales. I wonder if you agree with that.
Well, I haven't sat down and figured out whether it's $100 billion or not, but Jerry York usually knows exactly what he's talking about and is good with numbers. You know, if I look at the month of December for our General Motors products, in 2007, GMAC, their finance company, funded 1,500 contracts for our company. In December of 2008, they financed 6. Well, where do you go from there? So these automotive finance companies definitely need access to capital, definitely need liquidity to make new car loans. They're not in a position to do it without federal assistance, and the banks are not in a position to step in. So you have industry sales at depression levels of 10 million units a year, and we have customer demand and traffic that if we just had normal credit would immediately improve the number to 12 or 12.5. Still recessionary levels, but above these depression levels of 10 million.
So bottom line, Mike, you're saying that there are people willing to make purchases here. They just kind of can't right now because of the lack of credit.
Yeah, the banks and the finance companies have a new marketing campaign, Just Say No. They think of every excuse in the world to say no. They give all kinds of hurdles to jump through, and it is extremely difficult to get a deal to the finish line. And the reason is they simply don't have the funds. Their conduits are full with loans that they made since the securitization market closed dramatically on September 15th with the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers. And the auto industry sales declined an incremental 25% with from one day to the next with the withdrawal of credit. So credit in some form needs to be restored.
Mike, 20 seconds left here. We got to wrap this up, but I got to ask you, what are you hearing from Washington in terms of, do you think they're listening to some of these arguments you're making here?
Oh, I really do. And I think they understand now that TARP 1 didn't work and that the financial system is still broken and the banks have not restored lending. And they're going to use the second half of the TARP differently. Also, I think the Federal Reserve accepting securitization of auto loans will make a huge difference.
Got to run. Mike, thank you as always.
Thank you.